again. Live from our Lusaka studios here at ZNBC on Aliking Kata Road with the news. My name is Collins Muyenga and my sign language interpreter is Pastor Samson Mwale. The headlines. President Edgar Lungu challenges men to take a lead in knowing their HIV status. General Education Minister David Mabumba says all examination storerooms will from now be guarded by armed police officers. And police in Lusaka apprehend 2 people in connection with an aggravated robbery that took place at Europa Casino and Lake Petroleum Filling Station. And former U.S. President George Bush has died at the age of 94 at home in Houston, Texas. And now the news in detail. President Edgar Lungu has challenged men to take a lead in knowing their HIV status. Speaking during this year's World AIDS Day commemorations in Livingstone, President Lungu also said he's impressed with the strides made in the country towards achieving the desired UN AIDS goals of controlling HIV. The head of state said this through Minister of Health, Chitalu Chilufya. Ms. Singoma now gives us the details in the following report.
This is the climax of week-long activities to commemorate the 2018 World AIDS Day, whose theme is Run the Last Mile, Leaving No One Behind. Republican President Edgar Lungu has endorsed strides made towards achieving the desired UNAIDS 90-90-90 goals in controlling HIV in the country. Minister of Health Dr. Chitalu Chilufya delivered the speech on behalf of the president.
Since the start of the HIV epidemic, Zambia has worked tirelessly towards finding solutions to bring the HIV epidemic under control. This has been through collaborations and partnerships between government, cooperating partners, the church, religious leaders, non-governmental organizations, and traditional leaders. This multi-sectoral response has enabled us to make significant progress, resulting in many people living with HIV leading healthy and productive lives. I am impressed with the strides we have made towards achieving the desired 90-90-90 goals in controlling HIV.
And U.S. Ambassador to Zambia, Daniel Foote, has encouraged parents to take their children for HIV testing.
Get tested. Know your status. 50% of your children in Zambia do not know their status. We don't know their status. Get your kids tested.
Network of Zambian People Living with HIV and AIDS, NZP Plus, Livingstone District Representative Estela Mbewe has called on government to quickly deal with challenges in access to HIV and AIDS services.
And we've also seen a reduction in funding for community interventions in the communities.
Several other dignitaries delivered solidarity messages in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Mesingoma, ZNBC News in Livingstone.
And an 11-year-old Livingstone girl who was repeatedly defound by her biological father at the age of 4 and infected with HIV has urged parents to be open about their children's status early in life. Giving a testimony during the World AIDS Day Eve candlelight service, the teary young girl told the congregation that her status was kept a secret from her and she only discovered when she went for a voluntary counseling and testing on her own. Let's get the details in the following report.
Candlelight service on the eve of World AIDS Day has been held in Livingstone, to show support for people living with HIV and to remember those who have died as a result of the disease. The service also honors those who are alive and brave, like this 11-year-old girl who is HIV positive.
It was difficult for Mom to tell us because we were still young. I didn't know until I went for a test with my friends at Dream Center. Dear parents, please disclose our HIV status so that we avoid new infection.
Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Technical Services, Dr. Jabin Mulwanda, officiated at the candlelight service.
And for us as a ministry, we continue to recognize the church as an important partner in our quest for a healthier Zambia.
And earlier in the day, the Permanent Secretary paid a courtesy on Southern Province Minister Edify Hamogale.
Most importantly, the fact that the new infections are going down is a good sign, because it means we can close the tap, because we cannot treat our way out of the epidemic. We have to close the tap of new infections.
Dr. Hamogale wants the Ministry of Health and its partners to also target the clergy in formulation of HIV/AIDS messages.
You need a session with pastors. Young girls are getting HIV from some of our clergy because they are told, if you have sex with me, then your problem will be over. I'm also aware that pastors are amongst the most shy to buy condoms. Oh yes, they don't buy condoms.
This year's World AIDS Day is being commemorated under the theme, Run the Last Mile, Leaving No One Behind. Mombeha Mobola, ZNBC News in Livingstone.
Meanwhile, Kabwata, Member of Parliament, Stephen Luwinda, has called for stakeholder collaboration in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Speaking when he officiated at this year's World AIDS Day commemorations in Lusaka, Mr. Luwinda, who is also Minister of Justice, says Zambia has made positive strides in the fight against HIV and AIDS in the recent years. He said the introduction of the test and treat by President Edgar Lungu has helped more people in knowing their status and commence medication immediately. And Lusaka District Health Coordinator Sophie Musisha has called for more community engagements in the new HIV infections are to be halted.
And we've got Evelyn Horn College.
Zambia and the rest of the United Nations family has set targets of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 by carrying out specific actions of providing HIV testing services to 90% Zambians living with HIV, providing antiretroviral therapy to 90% of all those diagnosed with HIV, and 90% of everyone on ART to become virally suppressed. Those are the triple 90s. In Lusaka, some of the major strides made in the HIV response has been the increase in the number of health facilities.
And this requires the coordination and synergies of working together with all the players. That includes the civil society organizations, NGOs, the community, the corporate institution, training institution, and the general population at large. So far, we've gained strides in the journey towards the AIDS-free society by 2030. The number of people on antiretroviral treatment as by the end of the third quarter 2018 at 206,678.
And Copperbelt Province Permanent Secretary Bright Nundwe says it is worrying that the HIV prevalence rate remains high on the Copperbelt despite government interventions to curb the spread of the virus that causes AIDS. He was speaking at the Provincial World AIDS Day commemoration held in Chingola. There is a report.
40 years since the first World AIDS Day commemoration was held. The day is commemorated mainly to raise awareness about HIV and AIDS. But 4 decades later, the prevalence rate still remains alarming. Hundreds of Copperbelt residents today gather to commemorate this important day. In Kitwe, District Commissioner Binwo Mpundu wants an end to the stigma that still exists against people living with HIV and AIDS.
If we are to successfully fight the further spread of HIV and AIDS, we must fight the stigma that is attached to the people that are living with HIV and AIDS.
Copperbelt Permanent Secretary was the guest of honor at the provincial celebrations which were held in Chingola. He is concerned about the HIV prevalence rate in the province despite efforts to reduce the spread of the virus.
And an increase in clients seeking HIV, AIDS testing, counseling and treatment, with about 514,707 clients were tested for HIV AIDS this year alone, of which 6.7% tested post and were immediately initiated on treatment. However, the province still has challenges. The HIV/AIDS prevalence is still high at about 14.2%. According to ZAMBIA 2015 report, the province has challenges of people not coming for HIV/AIDS testing, counseling and treatment.
This year's World AIDS Day was commemorated under the theme Run the Last Mile, Leaving No One Behind. Lupindula Mwewa, ZNBC News, in Chingola on the Copperbelt.
Meanwhile, First Lady Esther Lungu has called on Zambians living with HIV to come forward and access treatment. She was speaking in a speech read on her behalf by wife of Central Province Minister Sidi Mushanga Bernadette during the World AIDS Day commemorations and commissioning of the Mother's Shelter in Serenje District today. Etambuyu Katota is in Serenje and now sent us this report.
World AIDS Day is commemorated world over. This year's theme is Know Your Status. In Serenje District, commemorations were graced by Mrs. Bernadette Mushanga, who represented First Lady Esther Lungu. Mrs. Lungu called on Zambians living with HIV to come forward and access treatment.
The upgraded National AIDS Council Information Management System, a platform which as a district you need to utilize, is another important milestone our government has achieved. I'm equally pleased to be associated with the commissioning of the Moria Kavanda's Mother's Shelter, which has been constructed and donated by Honorable Maxwell Mumakavanda, Member of Parliament, and his family. As we all know, issues of maternal health and health in general are fundamental to the development of our country because a healthy nation is a productive nation.
And Mrs. Mushanga also handed over the Moria Kabanda's Mother's Shelter on behalf of the First Lady. The shelter has been constructed at a total cost of 850,000 kwacha by Serenje Central Member of Parliament Maxwell Kabanda.
My family and I considered it courteous and our duty to contribute to this facility at a cost of 850,000 kwacha, not only because of our emotional attachment to this district or our Christian values, but also the value we attach to the welfare of our people and their needs.
World AIDS Day has been commemorated nationally under the theme, Run the Last Mile, Leaving No One Behind. Government intends to ensure the country has 0 new HIV infections by the year 2030. Etambuyu Katota, ZNBC News, Serenje, Central Province.
Vice President Inonge Wina has called for attitude change if the fight against cholera is to be won. Mrs. Wina is concerned that indiscriminate disposal of waste has continued despite efforts for people to throw litter in designated places. Mrs. Wina was speaking in a speech read on her behalf by Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Yande Mwape. This was during the launch of the Keep Matero Clean campaign. And Matero Ward 28 Councillor Annie Chinyanta said sensitizations on keeping Matero clean will continue until residents in the area change their mindset.
I'm going back, a very happy person, and I'll report to our owner, the Vice President, due to the fact that all, including business houses who have an interest in this area, have a share or a portion in terms of ensuring that we dispose of our waste properly. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that you've agreed to take up the responsibility of putting a stop to further indiscriminate dumping of waste at undesignated places. This is the step in the right direction, and I'm very happy to hear that the corporate world is involved in this noble cause.
A political scientist, Alex Ngoma, says there's nothing wrong with the President Edgar Lungu going on vacation. Dr. Ngoma has described as cheap politicking those criticizing the president's vacation. It says President Lungu is the #1 civil servant with a heavy workload, hence going on vacation is good for him and the country. And Bible Gospel Church in Africa presiding Bishop Peter Ndlovu says President Lungu is mortal and needs to rest. The two were speaking in separate interviews with ZNBC News in Lusaka, and PF Media Committee member Brian Hapunda says it's outrageous for anyone to politicize the president's well-known destination and retreat.
The president is on a holiday retreat at a well-known location in Eastern Province as his annual leave, and we have seen of late that the president has been working hard, traveling within the country and outside the country, and this has actually made the president so tired, and it is only sensible that at the end of the year the president has decided to take his annual leave at that well-known location in Eastern Province. So therefore it is very unfortunate that we have seen the opposition leader, NDC leader, consultant, as he calls himself, Shimbaka Mbwili, misleading the nation on the whereabouts of the president, thereby causing panic and anguish among his citizens as regards where the president is. But like I've said, it is a well-known fact that the president is within the country and is on holiday, a working holiday in Eastern Province, and that he will be back in the office this coming week.
President Lungu has taken his annual retreat in Eastern Province. You're watching the main news, and just now we take our first break. We'll be back on the other side with more stories. Keep watching. Thank you so much for still staying with us. This is ZNBC main news. General Education Minister David Mabumba says all examination storerooms will from now be guarded by armed police officers. Mr. Mabumba says this in a bid to tighten security and avoid examination leakages. He was speaking in Kabwe when he held a meeting with the Provincial Education Officer, District Education Board Secretaries and Human Resource Officers from all the 12 districts of Central Province. Let's get the details in the following report.
General Education Minister David Mabumba is in Central Province to check on education infrastructure projects and to meet Minister of General Education officers and teachers. Mr. Mabumba has started his tour of selected districts with a meeting with all the 12 district education board secretaries, DEBs, and human resource officers.
You are overloading children, and what are they looking for now? Leakages, because they can't cope. You can even prepare one paper, you can have section A, section B, section C. On security arrangements, that's where we have been challenged the heaviest. Because under normal circumstances, exams are supposed to be guarded just like we guard election materials. So for next year, everything being equal, all our strong rooms are going to be manned by a police officer.
Earlier, Mr. Mabumba paid a courtesy call on Central Province Permanent Secretary Chandakawe, who briefed the minister on what is happening in the education sector in the province.
Found that the council had not allocated we agreed that land be given to the school.
Later in the evening, the Minister of General Education visited Kasanda Malombe Secondary School, where he expressed disappointment that some people have encroached on land belonging to the school.
When the resources permit, that should just remain as a primary school. Then you can bring the other structures here as a secondary school. But if you sell this as plots, then forget about the future of your children, isn't it?
Prince Chioni, reporting in Kabwe, Central Province.
Police in Lusaka have apprehended 2 people in connection with an aggravated robbery that took place at the Europa Casino and Lake Petroleum filling station. Lusaka Province Police Commissioner Nelson Pui says police have recovered almost 150,000 kwacha and 3,100 United States dollars allegedly stolen from Europa Casino. Details are in the following report.
2 armed robbers out of the 4 who broke into Lusaka's Europa Casino and walked away with 1.2 million kwacha and 3,000 United States dollars have been apprehended. The 2 suspected robbers are currently in police custody, and the police have since recovered 2 shotguns. The police have also recovered 3,100 United States dollars and 149,500 kwacha suspected to have been stolen from the casino. The suspects are also behind the robbery that happened at Lusaka Petroleum filling station on Great North Road 4 weeks ago.
Police in Lusaka has made headways into the aggravated robbery which occurred on 25th November 2018 at 05 hours at the Europa Casino along Kafue Road in Lusaka. And another one that took place on 1st November 2018 at 01 at Lake Petroleum filling station along Great North Road in Lusaka. To this effect, the police has apprehended 2 suspects whose names for now we have withheld.
Other goods also recovered are Fridge's music system, the 2 masks that the suspects wore when they staged the robbery. Mr. Piri said police will not be swayed from conducting investigations by detractors who publish false articles. Investigations in the matter have continued as some of the suspects are still on the run. Delphista Lungu, TV2 News in Lusaka.
Staying on the same, Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja has called for cooperation among SADC countries to fight across-border crimes. Mr. Kanganja says individual countries cannot attain peace and tranquility unless there's stability in the region. Mr. Kanganja, who is also chairperson of the Southern Africa Region Police Chiefs Cooperation Organization, SWAPCO, was speaking in Harare, Zimbabwe during a graduation ceremony of 27 law enforcement officers drawn from member countries.
That, and I quote, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with but one step, end of quote. This is our first step, and as one said, I quote, if you want to travel fast, travel alone, and if you want to travel far, travel with others, end of quote. I believe, and I'm convinced, that together as police chiefs, together as national police organizations, together as stakeholders, together as regional countries, yes, our trumpet and our voice will be heard, and our footprint on both the policing and professional landscape will live for posterity.
Zambia Institute of Purchasing and Supply, ZIP's President Chiwemwelwa, says procurement and supply plays a critical role in the austerity measures government has introduced. Mr. Mwela was speaking during a 2-day Northern Region training workshop sensitizing procurement officers on issues of procurement and supply held in Mpika, Muchinga Province. The workshop, which saw more than 300 delegates from all over the country being trained, was organized by the Zambia Institute of Purchasing and Supply. Mr. Mwelwa has since called on all procurement and stores professionals in Zambia to conduct all procurement in an efficient and corrupt-free environment. Muchinga Province Permanent Secretary Jobix Kalumba says there's no need for qualified and registered procurement officers in organizations. Dr. Kalumba says controlling officers are usually faced with audit queries because of procurement officers who fail to professionally do their job. Government has projected a bumper harvest in Eastern Province following the early distribution of farming inputs to farmers under the 2018-2019 Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP. Eastern Province Permanent Secretary Chandak says the province has received the inputs on time and that a good crop yield is projected if there will be good rains. Mr. Kasolo was speaking when he inspected fertilizer depots with Neria Investment Limited General Manager Martin Chaikatisha in Chipata. And Chaikatisha has thanked government for entrusting Neria Investment with the responsibility to distribute fertilizer in some provinces since 2012. He said the company will always perform to government's expectations every time it is rewarded with a contract to distribute fertilizer.
One of the key factors about fertilizer distribution must be distributed on time. And this is the first year since I've been here that we are doing this so promptly. I'm very happy how it's been done. Congratulations to Minister of Agriculture. The PACO is here and directing the operations. I like that. A hands-on man, that's what we want. So Neria Investments have done well. I'm sure we will make sure next year you're here again, because this sort of efficiency we haven't seen before. This is the first time we are, I'm smiling because I know the farmers here, they come to my office to complain, and I've had little complaints.
We attach great importance to the contract that the government has given us through the Ministry of Agriculture. And obviously this partnership is all about ensuring a national household food security in the country. As you are aware that in our neighboring countries like Malawi, they've been having food security problems, and all the maize that is grown in Eastern, most of the bulk is exported into there. But I think by and large, our message to the farmer is that as Neria's investments, we are saying we've delivered on time and the farmers are collecting on time. And we wish them a successful 2018 and 2019 farming season.
Up ahead is safety news. You're watching ZNBC Menus, and just now we take a break. We'll be back with more stories on the other side. Keep watching. Copper Belt Province Minister Japhet Mwakalombe says he's disappointed with the way marketeers at Kaparala Market managing the trading places. Mr. Mwakalombe, who toured the market during the Keep Zambia Clean and Healthy campaign exercise, said he is saddened that marketeers have failed to keep their trading area clean despite government's call of keeping the market and the environment clean. He has since called on the marketeers and the local authority to work together and ensure the area is kept clean to avoid outbreak of waterborne diseases. And in Ndola, Mayor Emon Chisenga has attributed the filthy state of the market to lack of equipment by the council, such as vehicles to collect garbage.
It's sad that we have this kind of dirty here, especially that it's rain season. You may wish to know that this is not coming from any other challenge other than the challenge that the actual market that was here got damaged, got destroyed by the fire. And I want to appeal also to even our marketeers that it's important that they don't wait for the dirt to accumulate, but be able to clean and be able to throw it in the dustbin that has been provided by the local authority.
We are going to enhance the cleaning ourselves as council so that we do not experience any cholera this year. Of course, we do have equipment, but again, we cannot say we have equipment absolutely. We need government to come on board. This council needs a lot of these trucks to get garbage and dispose it where it's supposed to be disposed.
Well, that's all the segment could accommodate. Thank you so much. Join us next week for another segment. Thank you so much for still staying with us. We continue with the news. NISCO Foundation Director Yasa Karin says the company has continued to expand its business and its support government efforts to create jobs. Mr. Karib says the company's investment is creating hundreds of jobs for the unemployed youth. He was speaking during the official opening of the $1 million living concert furniture in Lusaka, and Company Assistant Director Lili Mwape said NISCO Foundation has created about 850 jobs.
NISCO group of companies has been in Zambia for over close to 26 years.
and in the process it has created a lot of employment, primarily to the Zambian people, in line with the government policy of employing the Zambian people. Currently, NISCO has over 850 employees on its payroll, and with Living Concept, they've added another 60 to 70 people on the payroll.
We believe this is for the youth, for the Zambian youth. These people working here, staff, they are the people who's gonna do the opening of this showroom. We believe in that. Please, I invite the staff of Living Concept to come along and do the opening.
Kasama Central Member of Parliament, Kelvin Sampa, says he will come up with a private member's bill to exempt young people with initiatives to help the less privileged in society from paying taxes. Mr. Sampa says it's encouraging to see that there are still young people in this generation that think about extending a hand to help the next person. He was speaking during the launch of the Keep Giving Foundation and Tomorrow Creations. Mr. Sampa assured them of support, saying government believes in promoting such initiatives, that this is the way why President Edgar Lungu has been calling on young people to be innovative and enterprising. Meanwhile, Keep Giving Foundation and Tomorrow Creations Executive Director Charles Simsokwe encouraged other young people to venture into entrepreneurship and move from the culture of job seeking. Tomorrow Creation has been created to be the driving fund for Keep Giving Foundation, which seeks to help the vulnerable and less privileged people in society. The foundation is working with the House of Moses Orphanage and the Bare Feet to support the activities they do for the orphans and street children.
And I'm very happy to be associated with this organization that has been officially opened today. Why am I saying so? It is young driven. And it's not easy in Zambia for young people to come up and set up an organization such as this. I've been there before. I know what it takes. It's commitment, loss of money. And in fact, the worst part, you will not be 100% supported when you're young. Because most of the established institutions look at the young person to think that they're just playing.
The fact that we've invited different people from all walks of life, all walks of businesses, it means already the environment is enabling, because we are expecting to be doing a lot of business with a lot of you. We're looking at the list. The guest list is not just by chance that you are here. Most of you here, we've invited you for business. Probably you realize as we go, because you are connected in a way or two to the two organizations that we're launching today. So going forward, for government, for politicians, please help young people like us to keep thriving, because if we hold the economy from this age, going forward, we'll be able to sustain even economies to come of our country.
A leading Chinese broadcasting firm has announced plans to forge working ties with ZNBC and other Zambian media through enhanced technical capacity building and content exchange. Chongqing Broadcasting Group, which has 1 billion viewership, says it will also help the Zambian media to establish media convergence centers where traditional media will be integrated with new media platforms, a survival strategy in the digital era where social media posing serious competition and challenges. Chongqing Broadcasting Group Deputy Director Shi Tao says under the scope of cooperation, ZNBC and other electronic media will have a chance to send staff for specialized training courses in China while collaborating content exchange and infrastructure development. ZNBC staffer Kenneth Walia reports from China that Mr. Shi, however, says the various scope of cooperation whose proposed plan to take off is 2019 under the existing bilateral channels between the two countries. He said this when a delegation of Zambian journalists toured Chongqing Broadcasting Group headquarters in Chongqing. And Chongqing Broadcasting Group Assistant Director Henry Chin said his company seeks friendly and mutually beneficial cooperation with ZNBC and other Zambian media outlets, adding that he will interface to spur economic, social and cultural ties. Chongqing Broadcasting Group, which runs 13 TV channels, 6 radio channels, has working ties with over 4 TV stations worldwide. The former U.S. President George Bush has died at the age of 94 at home in Houston, Texas. Mr. Bush Sr. served as the 41st U.S. President between 1989 and 1993, his term defined by the end of the Cold War and the first Iraqi war against Saddam Hussein. While his health had been failing in recent years, he still managed to make public appearances. Well, that wraps up the main news. But before we go, let's take a quick look at the stories that made headlines. President Edgar Lungu challenges men to take a lead in knowing their HIV status. And General Education Minister David Mabumba says all examination storerooms will from now on be guarded by armed police officers. Police in Lusaka have apprehended 2 people in connection with an aggravated robbery that took place at Europa Casino and Lake Petroleum Filling Station. And finally, former U.S. President George Bush has died at the age of 94 at home in Houston, Texas. Well, that wraps up the main news. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Collins Mienga and Pastor Samson Mwale, who's been giving a sign language interpretation. On behalf of the entire production team, keep watching ZNBC. It's bye for now.